Hello, friends. My name is Dave Miller.
And I'm Niall Spain. And this is Podcast. We're your fuck buddies.
We're a dating and sex advice podcast where we take your sticky, sexy situations and turn them into sexy, sticky situations.
Simply put, we find questions either roaming the wilds or sent in by our wonderful listeners, and we answer them right here, right now, for you.
It's true. We've had a big week. We've had a big month.
We've had, big year.
Big year?
I'm tired.
It's March. It's March, y'all.
I'm fucking tired, man.
I'm tired. We are back in the closet. You can probably tell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can tell. Maybe some really discerning.
Let us know if you can tell.
Let us know if you can tell.
Is the energy different? Is the audio
powerful,
different?
Like hair loop right now?
My hair's doing wild shit today,
great.
man.
So, hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
I know we've been doing a lot of live shows lately, and that's, we're busy when we put up live shows. We never put up live shows if we don't have to. It is
not that they're not great.
Not that they're not great. It's just like, if we don't have the time to record and edit, then we do a live show.
Hopefully they're great.
They are. I think
it was one of our most popular episodes last year. It was a live show.
So it's nice to be back in the closet. It's nice to have you in the closet. Yeah. And I'm ready to do some questions.
Yeah, you want me to? Oh, well, you know what? This week we're going to be talking help. My wife got into stand-up and I can't take it anymore.
Getting over the cuck life.
I need there to be less topping. How do I do that without hurting or embarrassing him?
Sex without emotional connection.
Hell yeah. But first, we got a question from Niall Spain.
Okay.
Why haven't you joined the Patreon?
Why haven't you done it?
Weird. Okay, there's more details here. It says, we don't need an answer right now. Maybe just think about why you're not supporting us. That's a weird question. Should we answer that one or should we move on to a different one?
I feel like we should let it ruminate. We should.
Oh, it says, there's in brackets, says, love you.
Okay, that's nice.
So at least it takes the sting out of it.
Yeah.
Huh, okay.
In case you are wondering how you might join the Patreon, you can head on over to FBuddies. No, yeah, you could do that. You go to fbuddiespodcast.com, click the Patreon link, or you can do patreon.com/FBuddies and support your boys. The middle tier gets you a bonus episode every month.
What percentage of our episodes every month?
Oh, good God. It's 25% more extra.
That's amazing. We're almost at, 30 episodes on there now? Are we higher?
I think we're over 30.
Damn. That's a lot of fresh episodes.
Maybe not. I don't know.
We did do a Tony Pizza deep dive.
Yeah. I'm so lost in the
life sauce.
I'm lost in the life sauce. I'm lost in the episode number sauce.
That's
because, fair. Especially with our other show where we release a.
Well, I thought we'd done more than double the amount of.
Yes, you did think that we were up into the 600s episodes. Anyway, let's do it.
This is by Throwaway Comedy 2021. Wife, 34-year-old female, got into performing stand-up comedy a few years ago, and I, 32-year-old male, can't take it anymore. It's the point that I made up a work emergency tonight so I could skip out on the show she's in. Feeling wildly guilty right now because I've never lied to her about something like this before. Majority of the time, the only laughs she gets are from her fellow comedians also performing that night, or from friends, family that she brings. She has an Instagram specifically for her stand-up and is constantly engaging with the trolls, even though I tell her not to. Important note, my wife is fucking gorgeous, so a lot of the negative comments on Instagram are things like, they're only laughing because you're hot. I'm rambling. It's been years and her performance isn't improving. She mostly does open mic or shows with only 15 or 20 people in the audience. She doesn't make money. She isn't taking any one-on-one coaching or classes like I've encouraged. I just can't keep watching her bomb every other weekend, and I am tired of her engaging with random weirdos on Instagram. How the heck do I tell my wife she sucks at her new passion?
I mean, it's not really a new passion if she's been doing it for years, he said?
Yeah.
I think this is an important thing where she's absolutely allowed to have hobbies and passions that don't make money.
Yes.
Right?
For sure.
I think if this is something she enjoys doing, if this is something that she likes to do on her own time, and it doesn't really matter if she doesn't care or if she's not being devastated, right? It'd be a different story if every time she did this show, she would come home and she would binge drink or cry her eyes out or feel like absolute shit. If this was taking a toll on her physically and mentally and, spiritually, emotionally, if there was a strong reason to oppose this, then I would be in your corner being like... Yeah,
but there's not a single word about her giving a fuck about this.
Yes.
And if she continues to do it, clearly she's good. So why is... this isn't a her issue. This is a you issue, bud.
And look... My previous partner used to do burlesque. I went to every fucking show when they first started because I wanted to support. However, there comes a point of diminishing returns when she's not doing new material every time. The same way I saw the same performance from my ex repeatedly. They only have a repertoire of certain things, right? So I think there isn't a harm, and I don't think you should feel obligated as a partner to go to every one of your partners or even friends' show. Support where you can.
Well, unless it's our show.
Well, we do a different show every time.
Oh, that's true. So
Right?
you gotta go.
It's not the same thing. If we were going out, like
Wait.
if we were a sketch duo,
We got another question here. Same user. Why haven't you come to the show? And there's details. It says, obviously a lot of you have. This isn't for you, but you have to keep coming or else. Weird. But then there's another brackets. It says, adore you.
Oh, nice.
Takes the sting out of it.
I understand there's a lot of people who, like, half our listenership is in the Philippines.
Oh, there's another one now. They're really active today. They say, doesn't matter. Planes exist.
It's
Then
true.
it says, you're my world.
Is that in brackets?
No.
Huh.
They're getting
Switching it up.
a little bit more brazen about it.
So, one, you can have a conversation with your partner and be like, hey, you know I support you. I'm not coming. I'm not.
Do you though?
I mean, it
Do
doesn't.
you though?
It doesn't. But I mean, he does because he's going
Yeah.
to these shows, right? If you're going to a comedy show every week and watching the same act, the same jokes, that's a lot. And that I think is an unfair ask. I think if she was doing this like once a month or every couple months or whatever, but if this is like a repeating, common, like weekly thing.
I will say, it doesn't say she always does the same show.
Yeah, but like stand-up comedians don't
Yes.
have an infinite
You
pool
never
of
know.
jokes, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, you know I support you. I'm going to sit this one out. And hopefully they don't take it personally. And if they do, you just have to be like, look, I've seen the show, right? And it's like, there is a point where I would love to support you. And like, if it's an important show, I'm there.
For sure.
If you know it's going to be light on attendance, let me know. I'll
Yeah.
be there, right? Like, I'm there to fill a seat, to add some laughter, to help you out. If everyone in the audience that's on your side has heard the same joke, the laughs aren't going to come anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because there comes a time where it's like, if you've heard the same joke, you're not going to be like
Uh,
busting a gut to a joke you've heard the punchline
Yeah.
to 1,000 times. So it's a diminishing return for both
yeah,
ends.
like you just be like, look, love you. I've been to so many, but like, I don't think I can continue to go to every single show.
Yeah.
Again, they should be fine with that. I think it's worth looking at why you're so bothered about their reception. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I don't think it's that you're worried they care. I think it's that you are embarrassed.
Yes, it's definitely a secondhand embarrassment thing where you are like, oh, if I was in this position, I would be embarrassed.
Yes.
And I'm now embarrassed because you're in a position that I would hate to be.
Mhm.
And
Or
that's a lot of projecting and reframing.
yes, or it's shittier in that like, oh, you're not doing well. I'm embarrassed to be associated with you,
Right.
which is, I think, worse.
Yeah. So, I mean, like the only thing I think that you have a leg to stand on is the not engaging with people who are bullying her online. Because I think that way does lie madness. However,
I also feel like that's a very valid way to get traction and views and activity. And like,
that's what I'm
you
saying.
know, honestly, we should probably do stuff that people would abuse us for more just so we can be like, fuck you, and then get a little furor going, you know?
Is like, if she's firing back with fucking bangers,
Exactly.
right? Like if she's spitting fire at these people, then like maybe that's her brand.
Yeah. Also, like, again, does she care?
Yeah.
Because it seems like you care.
Yeah.
And like, why do you care?
Well, it's probably jealousy because
Well,
there's
he
a bunch of
does
strangers
say-
being like,
yeah.
oh, all they do is talk about how hot she
I'm
is.
tired of her engaging with random weirdos on Instagram. It's like, there's no like, oh, she's upset and she spends
Mhm.
hours and time. It's just him being fucking weird about it.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of like self-reflection you got to do on your end and be like, why do I feel these ways? Is
Well-
it jealousy? Is it embarrassment? Oh,
I'm gonna add a little dollop of cream to this coffee we're brewing.
okay.
Does that?
No,
does
it's
that
nothing.
mean- by that I mean you're gonna shit yourself.
Yeah, I'm
on
gonna-
this bit. He did cross out in an edit. How the heck do I tell my wife she sucks her new passion? And replace it with how the heck do I help my wife improve her skills if she isn't willing to put in the work to make those improvements?
Okay.
Which is again a weird thing to say.
It's,
Why is it on you to improve her skills
yeah.
if she doesn't give a fuck?
Yes. It seems like you are approaching things and with a lot of the mindset that a lot of people who aren't artistically inclined, where they look at something and be like, you're doing this thing. Why isn't it making you money?
Mhm.
Why isn't it X? Why isn't it Y? Right? So you have like these ideas of being like, if she was a painter and she sucks shit at painting,
Yeah.
but she enjoyed doing it, you wouldn't be like, babe, you got to go to class.
They might be.
But that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
like there are people who do that where they look and they're like, my girlfriend's a painter and she brings it to art sales. It doesn't really sell anything, but it's like, as long as it's not taking a toll on them, as long as it's not leaving them in like emotional shambles, let them do it. Let them paint their silly
Yeah.
little pictures that make them happy, that they're proud of and that they're engaging with and like doing.
Yeah.
If it's something that like heals them, let people make art without having to associate.
Yeah. I'm
Like,
sure.
I wouldn't do this. Like, we're now getting to a point where the finances of podcasting is a little bit more in our favor.
Mhm.
We're not making enough to live off.
But there's a question here that just got to. It says, if you join the Patreon, that could happen.
It's true.
Are they listening to us? It's really weird.
Is there
It's-
someone in this
in
closet
brackets,
with
it says, not listening, love you.
us?
And XOXO, gossip girl. I'm so confused.
But it's like, I wouldn't have started this
Mm.
if it wasn't something I really enjoyed doing.
Yes.
If we got 10 episodes in and we were like, this fucking sucks. We hate doing this.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. I wouldn't keep doing it.
Hey, if my partner was like, my boyfriend has been doing this thing for a couple of years. Why hasn't he made any money? Yeah, podcasting. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
You know?
So, one, let your partners pursue hobbies that they want to pursue, regardless of their skill at it.
Yeah.
As long as they're not suffering
Mhm.
some sort of adverse effect because of it.
Your embarrassment does not count as an adverse effect.
No.
And you could probably manage that if you took the time to think about it and figure out why you feel that way and why it's irrelevant to their situation.
Yes. And then finally, if there is something that they are doing that you are concerned about, like the engaging in trolls, like if you see that like there is a habit here or something forming where you're like, oh, this doesn't look good and I'm concerned about you,
Yeah.
express that to them.
Yeah. Like if
Right.
you're like, hey, you get really worked up by these assholes online, it's like maybe it's time to just like mute your posts and like ignore them, right?
Yeah.
Or make your profile private. If it's not a thing they like, if they're not aiming to make stand-up comedy a career, maybe make it private. Their friends can enjoy it, they can enjoy it, blah blah blah. Or just mute the trolls or ignore them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like talk to them, be like, hey, these people don't fucking matter. They're just assholes. Everyone's a fucking piece of shit behind an anonymous computer screen.
And also, like, again, frame it in the sense of being like, hey, are you comfortable with these? Right? Like, check in with your partner.
Yeah.
And don't just sort of like tell them what to do.
Yes.
Be like, hey, you are spending a lot of time and investing a lot of energy and engaging with people who are giving you nothing but negative feedback.
Mhm.
Are you okay? Is this affecting you? Like, do you need help managing it? Like, it's okay not to engage with them and sort of like give them support and reassurance that way. But there might be a little something, something. Like, if I was posting content and someone was like, you're just really hot, I don't know if I would really hate that.
Yeah, if we post a thing being like, you guys aren't funny, but damn, you're good looking, I'd be like, hey, Dave, we got a nice comment.
Yeah, I would take that. Like, I think there is a part of being in show business where you kind of have to, like, if that's the angle that people are going to paint you in, it's like, all right, then, like, I'll be the hot one. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine. Sure. If internet strangers want to backhand compliment me, I'm not going to get fucking fussed about that.
Yeah. Again, I think the point we made where it's like, if it's affecting them is very important.
Yes.
If it's not affecting them, look at why it seems to be affecting you, right? If they don't want to improve their skills, as you say, maybe you don't get the jokes. If the other comedians are laughing, they're the pros.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, they're the ones getting the jokes.
And
I imagine comedians are more likely to not laugh at something
Mm.
than they are to laugh at something.
Unless it's like comedian ethics. Where,
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I've seen comedians be like,
Yeah. At least in Toronto, the stand-up comedy scene is uncomfortable to say the least.
I did once go to a what's the word? Just like there were a bunch of different comics where they all dressed up as a character from Mario and they did like the roast
Yeah.
of Super Mario or roast of Nintendo, and they all took the stage, and like one of them took the stage and bombed so hard, and like not only was there an audience not laughing, there were 9 other stand-up comics on stage looking awkward and not laughing, and it really was a painful moment for everybody. And by moment, I mean about 7 minutes set, and it fucking sucked shit.
So yeah, just like let your partner do their thing, and you are not obligated to be a part of it.
Mhm.
Like, let them have their own thing. Let them have their own world. Maybe stand-up comedy is their private sphere in which they go and make their own friends,
Yeah.
make their own community, and exist without you. And then, but just like, tell them, be like, hey, if you have a big show and you need me
Yeah.
there, you let me know. But I would, at this point in time, I've gone to 39 shows.
Mhm.
I would like to bow out for a bit to sort of like recharge the comedy battery. And when you need me, I will be there.
Yeah.
In a drop of a hat, you just let me know and I will be there. But if you're just going to keep doing the circuit like you're doing, I might not go to every show.
Yeah.
And hopefully that they should understand that.
Yeah.
This question comes from Jumpy Pollution and a bunch of numbers. My girlfriend is a cuck, and I don't think I like or approve it anymore. She was always open about her fetish since the beginning of our relationship. I was never particularly a polyamorous person, and always maintained monogamy in my previous relations. However, as strange as it is for the female gender, she simply gets pleasure and dopamine by watching me fuck other women in front of her. Not gonna lie, in the beginning it was so different that it was cool, and I even used to tell her I like it. But now she just finds new girls on dating apps for me to fuck in front of her. She even makes me call her names and insults. She even told me that to not take a shower so she could smell the other girl later. I'm just not in love with her anymore. Don't even want to be next to her. And don't know how she will react when I tell her this BS gotta stop.
Well, look, we can't give you advice when you've already nailed the approach,
Yeah,
right? Just rock right up. This BS gotta stop.
yeah.
Close the door in her face.
Slam like a big book or something down.
Yeah.
Like you gotta have something that like really like
Mhm.
extend you. That you've got to have like an audible period,
Yeah.
right? Like or exclamation. No, it's got to be a period. I think. I
Yeah.
think you don't want to shout it. Just like,
No, that's rude.
it's like, excuse me, girl, woman, this BS gotta stop.
Yeah.
Slam.
Done.
Done.
All right, so
Honestly,
got another question.
let's just call it here because that's going to be my answer for the rest of the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. This BS
Got to stop.
got to stop.
It's funny because like your whole position on this, and you go first. This
Well-
has upset me a lot.
There's a bit of a journey. And the journey was like, oh, it was new and cool.
Yeah.
And like, I thought it was like, oh, over time I grew to not really like it. And, but then it was like, I don't love them anymore. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, if you aren't into something, you do not have to participate.
Nope.
So at the point where you stopped being into this is the point when you should have said, hey, I'm not really feeling it right now.
Yeah.
And like, if they were like, oh, that's cool, great. If they were like, no, I need this in a relationship to be happy, great. Either way, you get to go your separate ways, right? So that's what should have happened. What you've done is continue to do a thing you don't enjoy to the point where it's bred resentment, which is not
Yeah.
good. So don't do that. Talk to them, be like, hey, I'm not into this anymore, the cooking. But at this point, you also might not be into the person because you've let it breed so much resentment, which is why we say to not do that.
Yeah, I would like to know the order of operations in terms of like, was it you participated in a fetish for so long that you weren't comfortable that made you not like this person or like not love this person anymore? Or was it you never really cared about this person? You just really like the novelty of being able to fuck a bunch of random people in front of your partner. And that was like, ooh, this is hot. This is sexy. Someone is just finding me an endless cycle of new sexual partners and I get to fuck whoever I want, whenever I want. And then you were like, once that got bored or once it got boring for you and you got bored, you were like, I never really liked this person. I like the situation. Like there's so many
like,
things.
Was it even like an escalation where you didn't mind it, but then you didn't like calling her bad words and then, you didn't like not having a shower? Like, what was it? And why did you not bring it up?
Yes, there was a line somewhere at some point in time that you happily crossed or crossed willingly. Like you went past what you were comfortable with. Yeah. And
then
now
you just kept riding down uncomfortable road until you met Don't Love You Anymore Avenue and you turned a hard right before going to Reddit.
Yeah, like you at no point in time were like had a conversation or were like, hey, I don't like after sex, I want to have a shower. Like I understand that this is something that you want and enjoy. However, maybe we do a little cuddle sesh afterwards and you can sort of get your fill.
Your whiffs in.
Yeah, you can huff my dick for a bit and then I will, but it's like, we talk about a lot, like your partner's fetish doesn't need to dictate your level of comfort.
No. Even if they have a fetish and you like a bit of it, you don't need to do all of it, right?
No.
So if you were good with a little bit of it, so like maybe occasionally fucking someone, or maybe fucking someone but not degrading your partner, or not showering, you could do a little bit. And again, it's up to them and you to work out if this compromise works. And if it doesn't, find somebody else. You know what I mean? But if she's like, oh, cool, you can do it a little bit, amazing for me. Thank you so much. Great.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't turn around and be like, oh, just gotta do everything, I guess.
Yeah.
Sucks.
It's like, I also feel like you had no input on the women that she was finding and bringing
But it
to you as
sounds
well.
like you just had no input on anything.
Yeah.
And that's not a good way to be in a relationship.
Especially now, whole relationship seems to hinge on a fetish.
Yes.
There was no sort of like boundaries set. There was no safety guidelines met.
Yeah.
Like, were you screening these people for any sort of like STIs? Like, what was there any sort of like safety process?
Yeah.
Was there like, how do you know where she was finding these people?
Could you veto people?
Yes.
Did you have a
just
safety word or a signal if you were uncomfortable in the moment?
Yeah. Like, was it just like you walked in and there was just someone and she was like, fuck her. And you're like, okay.
Damn it.
That's the kind of the stuff. And like, people always, this is something I found, especially in my most recent stint as being like a single person on dating apps and like dating, was everyone seemed to be like, I'm kink friendly.
No one's
I'm
kink.
kinky.
Everyone says that.
And then you start talking to them and like, there were people who were like, oh, I've got like a really big like CNC kink. And I've got like I met more than one person who are into like this fantasy of like a home invasion. But they were like, I don't want to discuss anything because that will like, so what you're asking for is a crime.
Yes.
You want me to commit a crime and hope that
You're chill.
I do everything exactly correct so that you don't feel unsafe. Like, I was just like, and the amount of people who were like, their whole profile was big on like, kink forward, kink friendly, I'm blah, 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 and like have all the right jargon.
We have to talk about this so often. And we have to talk about it so often because people are not good at it.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like, I'm learning the ropes of kink as well. You know, like there was a lot of stuff that I had to have partners would have to educate me and like tell me about stuff. And it's like, so it's always a learning process. But
and I think everyone involved in kink is also always constantly learning, right? No one's just like, did it.
Yeah. It's very wild to me how many people are like, I'm super kinky. And it's like, great, cool. Like, let's talk about it. And they're like, no. Like, okay.
I guess you're kinky. You're just not healthy at being kinky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I feel like there's so many people, and it's like we get questions like this all the time where people are like, here's my kink, but my partner doesn't want to do it. Or my partner has a kink and I don't want to do it. And it's just like, guys, kinks and fetishes are important to satisfy and explore. But if that's the hook of your relationship, it needs to be like in a stud and not on drywall.
Yes.
Right? Like that. Like, and so many people are just like, kink, slam it on the wall and be like, great, let's hang a fucking mirror on it and be like, oh no, it ripped and smashed all over the place and now I'm bleeding from.
You can tell you've been doing a lot of moving. You want your relationship to be more like a frog box than like a wet cardboard box, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So don't ever let it get to this point. Communicate your boundaries. Boom.
Yeah. And once you hit a point, like just because you've agreed to a fetish or a kink, the second you hit a point where it gets too far, you say, hey, actually, I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Let's walk it back. Let's reevaluate our boundaries.
It's like consent. It's not just like, shit, I said yes. Now I gotta fuck
I
them.
did it once.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
If you
can
and
withdraw
your
your consent, you can change your parameters,
Yes.
you can, and you should.
And the nice thing about fetish and kink is that like you can tweak based on person to person to person, right? Like,
or even day to day today.
Exactly. So there might be times where you're like, hey, I'm really into spanking. And maybe one time it's like, I just want hands. Next time I want belt. I want whip. I want whatever. And like, you haven't opened that door forever.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, you used paddle once. It's paddle every day.
It's
now.
paddle every day.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you can be like, hey, I love the paddle last time. Can we do soft hand spanking today? Yes. And if your partner at any point in time is like, no, I'm hooked on paddle, then be like, okay, great. This isn't for me anymore.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation 1,000 times. Fucking relax. Chill out. Talk to your partners before it gets to the point where you don't love them anymore because of a fetish. And reevaluate why you're getting into a relationship. If you're just satisfying someone else's kink because it's new and exciting for you, and then the second it's not, you're going to be like, fuck you don't mean anything to me, then you're not a good partner and you're not, in my opinion, a good person.
This week's episode is sponsored by Fleur, a sex-positive dating app that puts your desire and pleasure to the forefront.
We've told a lot of stories of our dating exploits over the years. What's the fastest you've gone from chatting on an app to something more spicy?
Honestly, the very first time I used a dating app, and the very first person I met up with from that app was a lady who messaged me. She wanted to come over. I will say I was uncomfortable having a stranger in my home before even meeting them in person. So we had a bar down the road, had 2 drinks, and then we came back to my apartment and we got things a little spicier. So a couple of hours, but it was a lot of fun and like a very good first kind of foray into online dating, and the rest kind of followed from there. What about yourself?
Yeah, one of my first, I would say like probably towards the beginning of like my real dating career when I first discovered online dating. I went on a really great first date with a lovely young lady, and we went back to her place. We hooked up, and she was like, "It's great because my roommate's out of town, so like, you know, we can be as loud as you want." She was like visiting family or something somewhere else, and I was like, "Awesome, cool." So after we had hooked up, I went to the bathroom. I was not clothed because why would I be? And I went to the bathroom. When I came out, her roommate was just chilling there, and I had, you know, the whole hog out, just out and about. And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were home. You weren't supposed to be home. I'm, you know, with so-and-so. And sorry." And then I just kind of jokingly be like, "You know, if you want to join, come on in." And we laughed. And then she did, in fact, come on in. And it was my first real threesome.
Amazing. If you're looking for something similar, Fleur makes it easy to indulge your naughtier side by providing a safe, fun, and inclusive space to explore your kinks. If you're looking for face-to-face, intimate encounters, you can chat and explore with peace of mind, knowing you can rely on Fleur's authentication procedures to ensure you're talking to a real person.
Maybe you and your partner are looking for a third to spice things up in the bedroom. Fleur supports couples profiles, and they can make it so that you can find a perfect match together. Not ready to meet up in person, but still want to get a little dirty? You can explore the virtual realm and engage in sexting with like-minded people all over the world.
So Fleur encourages users to openly share their desires and fantasies and find like-minded individuals to explore them with, whether it's for one-night stands, friends with benefits, sexting, or even long-term relationships. There are no forbidden desires, just mandatory respect and consent. And most importantly, it's about the pleasure of intimacy, the passion between people, and the desire to try something new.
So head on over to Fleur.com to download the app today. That is www.flure.com. Fleur Dating, made for pleasure.
This is by Trovare Biscotti. I, 35-year-old female, need there to be less topping. How do I do that without hurting or embarrassing him? 40-year-old male. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. It's awkward to discuss with friends and family, so I thought I'd anonymously ask an incredible sex and dating advice podcast.
Oh.
I'm a married 35-year-old woman. Husband is 40. We've been together for 5 years, married for 4 years. Basically, last year, my husband, while we lay in bed, asked if I want to try anal. I told/reminded him I never would, then jokingly said, but if he wanted to try it, I'd be willing. From his body language, it was clear he was embarrassed, ashamed, and we left at that because I know if I said anything further, he would have been upset. A couple of months later, though, he brought it up again and said he'd actually like to try. I was surprised because I had never expected it, especially after his response when I jokingly said it. I agreed I'd be willing to try, but I need to do some research. Hell yeah.
Okay, great.
I'm an analytical thinker, and I got to researching and preparing.
More like analytic thinker.
Ayo. I mean, if I'm going to do it, I aim to do it well. 2 months later, I told my husband I was ready and started talking about the research. My husband then revealed he'd done it once before and didn't need much explained to him. And the day came, and well, apparently I was good at it. Like, really good. According to him, I had stamina. I was in great control of my silicone appendage. It was a wild few times, and I was good with it. I mean, I don't gain any physical pleasure from it, but I enjoy giving pleasure, so in that way, I guess it was very satisfying. And of course, we also had regular sex, and I was certainly satisfied. Now to the problem. He wants it all the time. It has become an almost daily thing, and sometimes multiple times a day. I work from home, and on some days the man comes home during his lunch break just for it. I've literally started doing targeted exercises to strengthen my core, back, hip, and leg muscles so I can keep momentum. I mean, I could tear a phone book in half of my arms while crushing those Stonehenge rocks with the power of my thighs. Truly, at this point, a singular thrust for me could pierce a hole in the space-time continuum that they keep talking about in movies. The man's insatiable, and I don't want to make him feel ashamed or awkward like before, but I need him to ease up. My husband's definitely very sensitive about this topic, and I don't really want to hurt him, but this easily can go wrong and he'll shut down. How do I go about it?
Okay, do you want to ease up because you don't like it? Or is it exhausting. Like, I need to know why you want to ease up. If it's just too much, then I think it's no different than like
any other sexual act.
Yeah, like if he was coming home every day and was like, I need a blowjob, blow me, then we would be like, yeah, that's wild.
And even if it was like a sexual act where you both received pleasure from it, you could still have it too much.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like,
even still, yeah. Like if every day he was coming and just being like, I want to have sex, and you didn't want to have sex, then like it's the same situation. So
yes.
I understand that there's a little bit more sensitivity because of his nature and maybe some guilt and shame and whatever.
Yeah, which sucks because like obviously it's something he's into.
Yeah.
Very much so. So it would be nice if he could take that, and you could take that shame out of the room and actually discuss things like in a healthy manner.
Yeah. And I think you need to do it regardless, right? Like the Band-Aid needs to get ripped because the longer you play along,
yes,
the harder
it is to break from that.
Yeah. So
I think it can be a very simple conversation of just like, look, obviously I love doing this. I love giving you pleasure. And like flatter a little bit, like it's super hot when you come really hard when I do that. You know what I mean?
And thank him for trusting you to, you know what I mean? Like it's like, I think it's really hot that you were open about this, right? And the fact that you allowed me to like be a part of this and the fact that you embraced it, that's really fucking sexy. And as Nell said, it's like, I love doing this for you. Yeah. However, it's becoming a bit much for me to maintain.
All the time.
Yeah.
Like, just, can we hit the brakes a little bit?
Yeah. Can we dial it back? I know this is something you like. I don't want to remove it.
Yeah.
It's not a judgment thing. It's not, it's nothing other than physical exhaustion.
You could even be like, look, if we're fucking or blowjobs. And like we said earlier, it'd be like, if it was this, to this frequency, it would be the same answer. So it's nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
And like, I don't see why or how he could be shitty about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if he does, just be like, I really need you to understand that this is something from me and it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
and especially not the act too.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, I'm starting to get really tired. It takes a lot of work on my end. And I just need to sort of, you know, we need to find a happy balance.
Yeah.
And it's, again, I don't want to cut it out because I do like it. And I love that you like it. But we need to sort of figure out the sweet spot of equilibrium between everything else. And I wouldn't want you to feel like you were obligated to do a certain thing for me every day or on a regular basis based on every time I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fair that I should be obligated or feel like I have to do it every time, because that's, if anything is going to make it not fun for me,
it'll be
it's obligation.
Yeah.
And
I think that's such a reasonable thing to ask.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't go wrong. And if it does, like if there's a kind of a reflexive, that's the word. If there's like a reflexive, like lashing out or defensiveness or anything, maybe give him a second, broach it again later, give him some space. Because again, sadly, this person does seem to have this shame about it. But like, then when you bring it up, maybe also try to be like, look, I want us to be able to talk about this. I think we need to be able to healthily. So like your response earlier, it's like, obviously I don't feel shame about doing this with you if I'm going to rail you on your lunch break. You don't need to feel the shame. Like, it's a safe space, me and you. Like, I've got you. It's all good.
Yeah.
You know, and be like, again, I find it really hot that you were able to be honest with me. And also, I love making you come. Leave it at that, you know? Yeah. Because you don't want to, this wouldn't have been a problem if it was something else, but you feel like you're walking on eggshells because they're a little sensitive. So, which is fine, you know, and understandable, but I think the sooner you broach that as well, the better.
Yes, absolutely. So, take it slow. Frame it from your point of view, as we usually suggest.
Yeah.
Make sure that you do create a comfort space, that you do address the fact that, like, it's not the act, it's the frequency. And hopefully your partner will understand and you can find a happy medium of what you need and what they need. And then you're living the good life.
Yeah.
So good luck. This is from Wildcard with a Heart. How do I, a 22-year-old female, learn to have good sex without needing an emotional connection? So I, a 22-year-old female, have only ever had terrible sexual experiences. I've experimented quite a bit with multiple casual partners, and it was all terrible. And given that all these encounters had one thing in common, I think I'm the problem here. My friends and I came to the conclusion that I'm probably the kind of person that needs an emotional connection to enjoy sex. A conclusion we reached because I'm quite shy and have only ever had sex in the context of one-night stands or friends with benefits. How do I learn to enjoy sex without establishing an emotional connection? I remember seeing advice to this question a while ago floating around up there on the internet somewhere, but I wasn't paying attention.
I feel like there's two ways we can go with this. One, you can have a friends with benefits situation with an emotional connection.
Yes.
That's not what I think they mean, which is like dating.
Mm-hmm.
It's weirder to me that you had friends with benefits and didn't have emotional connection.
Yeah.
So pick somebody you like.
It's always where it's like, there's a difference between a friends with benefits situation and casual sex with someone that you don't know.
Yes.
Right? Like, or even if it's just like someone that you met at a bar and you hooked up with once and then every now and then you booty call. That's not a friends with benefits situation.
No.
That is random sexual encounters with someone that you've had sexual encounters before.
Yeah.
Like
but
friends with benefits, first word.
Yeah, friends.
It's friends.
But even then, it's like if I was hooking up with someone on the regular, I would still have some kind of emotional connection with them. And it would be that I like them or their company or their, if I went over and they were repulsed or repulsing or repulsed.
Yeah.
Or like shitty or like whatever. It's like I've had sex with people I don't even super like, I quite like hanging out with. And I just kind of like fizzled on it because I had sex with people I liked hanging out with more. Even if it was, we barely knew each other. I just enjoyed being around them.
And that's my point, is that like, you seem to be like forgetting the fact that like, in order for a friends with benefits situation to, in my opinion, count as such, you need to do something or like something other than sex with that person. Sure. Even if it is literally like hanging out 20 minutes or 20 minutes after and just shooting the shit, having a conversation or playing a video game or, or smoking just like, weed or having a drink, like anything.
Or
like,
even just during, like if you guys vibe, right? Like it seems weird to me that there wouldn't be an emotional connection there. So, and again, if you're sleeping with anybody regularly and there isn't some kind of thing, again, unless you're talking emotional connection, like we're in love, we're dating.
Yes.
That seems very strange to me. And you're picking people, maybe you're trying to distance yourself so much from this emotional connection that you're picking people you don't like.
I don't even think it's like,
or you're refusing to even think of liking.
And I'm not even sure if it's a matter of liking. I think you're actively choosing people you have no chemistry with.
Maybe.
Right? Like, I think you're actively being like, I don't feel anything for that person. So they're ideal sexual partner. And it's like, no, it's not, that's not how it works. It's like, some people might be able to do that, but like, I can almost guarantee you,
even if you do it, it's like,
what's the point?
It's like tying your legs together and being like, let's have a sprinting race. And it's like, you could not do that and you'd be able to sprint.
Yeah.
Sure, you'll make some distance and maybe you become very good at hopping on two legs, but why would you do it?
Is it fun? Like, is it enjoyable? Like, you might be able to get to the finish line. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Congratulations, you did it. But did it suck the entire time?
Yes.
And which seems like the answer in your situation is yes. So
I think you're hamstringing yourself if you try to pick people you feel nothing for, whether it be chemistry or any kind of connection in that way. And I think a lot of people get this so wrong about casual sex.
Yeah.
Second thing, if we're going to talk more about the physical aspect of enjoying sex, orgasm gap exists. Casual sex is not ideal for straight women to come because men are really bad in bed. And also women all have different things that work for them. So the less casual the sex you're having with someone, the more you know their body. Mm-hmm. If you're the kind of person that gives a fuck, but also, secondly, a lot of men don't. Control, take it into your own hands. Literally, if you know how to pleasure yourself, make sure if you're riding a guy or he's fucking you, get involved with your own clit. You know what I mean? Don't just be a passive participant in this thing where it's like, oh, well, I had bad sex. He didn't make me come. Like, either one, say, hey, can you do this? Or can I have more of this or less of this? Like, get involved.
Yeah.
And two, make yourself come.
Fuck, don't be fucked.
Exactly.
Right? Like, even if
fucking collaboratively.
Even if you want to just be fucked.
Yes.
That has to be a conscious decision and communicated by you.
And then you need to be fucked the way you want to be.
Yeah.
Again, not that you jump in and start being like, do this, do that. But like, if you're not a communicative, active participant in the sex you're having, you're obviously not going to enjoy it that much because you're just kind of hoping that this rando you're with is good, gives a shit, knows anything about you, can read your cues.
Yeah, knows your body language. Yeah. Like, there's little subtle clues. Like, once you start sleeping with someone, like, I know when it's time to slow down. Yeah. I know when it's time to speed up. I know when to pound, take someone to Pound Town because, like, I know that's what they need when they start breathing this way and when their arm goes above their, you know what I mean? It's all little things.
There's nothing better than knowing your partner's body sometimes better than they know, where they're like, oh, I'm done. You're not going to get any more. And then you're like, are you sure? And based on your complex things where it's like, oh, if I go really quick, like here, that's going to kick them into like that final one. Or like, oh, if I go like achingly slowly, I know despite how sensitive they are, it's going to fucking rock. And like, that's the sweet spot. But that's when you get there from knowing them for so long. This rando has no idea. And you're going to be throwing more fuel on the fire in a bad way if you're also faking enjoyment or orgasms, right? If you're doing like the porn star moan of like, oh, I'm having sex, I gotta, then they're not even reading your signals correctly because you're giving out false signals.
Yeah.
So there's so much.
There's such a long list of things that are so easy to do. It's like, one, like, don't have sex for the sake of having sex.
Yes.
Sure, everyone likes to get laid, but if all of your experiences are terrible, then what's the fucking point?
But that's the thing. Obviously, everyone doesn't like to get laid, right? Like,
yeah.
Something's going wrong. So make sure, as Dane said, 100%, you want to have sex. Make sure it's the right time for you. Make sure it's the right person for you.
Yeah.
Make sure it's the right situation. Like, is it a car? Is it a shower?
We've talked about it before, and I think this is something you say, where it's like, it's not cold just because it's casual, right? Like, it doesn't have to be so detached and devoid of
In fact, it
friendliness,
shouldn't.
warmth. They're like, my big thing, especially as I went older, if I wasn't laughing in some point during sex, either, when you got there and we're just shooting the shit before we get to it, or afterwards when we're just hanging out for however long we want to hang out for after we've had sex, or during, like, if you make me laugh or something happens where we're laughing during sex, I am immediately 100% going to enjoy it more.
Yes,
and
as the walls are down.
Yeah.
It's like, there's nothing worse than like that stoic, like, arm's length, not literally, but like emotionally arm's length. Like, fuck that bullshit. And it makes me so sad when people want that, because they don't want it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they think that's what you're meant to do.
Yeah. So
just don't.
Relax.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. Understand that emotion doesn't necessarily mean commitment, and emotion doesn't necessarily mean weakness. Like, feel things.
Yeah.
Like, sex is so much better when you feel something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be love. It doesn't have to be romance. It doesn't have to be any of these things. It just has to be, do you vibe? Yeah. Is there a spark? If there's no spark, don't fuck them.
Yeah.
It's so simple. It doesn't matter how hot they are, because I would rather have sex with someone that I have a lot of chemistry. And I learned this when I was young. I spent a lot of time having kind of mediocre sex with really, really attractive people. And I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how hot you are. It doesn't matter how great your body is. This isn't enjoyable.
Yeah. Especially if you're not feeling a spark, some part of you doesn't think they're that hot.
Yeah.
In some way. You know what I mean? So you might just be convincing yourself, or it's like, oh, if you're basing it on like, oh, the 3 people I hung out with said they were hot, so I gotta fuck them. Like, and then I'll get my social credit. Like, no, just fuck people you want to fuck.
Yeah. And allow yourself to vibe.
Yes.
And allow yourself to make the call before you have a terrible sexual encounter. Be like, there ain't nothing here.
Yeah. Save yourself time, effort.
Yeah.
Emotional drain.
The amount of time where, again, in this like sort of most recent, where I was way more discerning, way pickier, way more sort of on board with what I wanted and what I needed out of sexual relationships. The amount of times where like I'd be talking to someone and like after X amount of time we'd have a date set up, and then like there was no vibe, like there was no like banter, there was nothing, where I was just like, the amount of times where I'd just be like, I could go on this date and I could probably have sex with them, and maybe it's great, but it's just like there was no drive to do it. It's like, I'm just gonna jerk off and then play video games or something, right? And it's like that was more satisfying than spending all this time and doing the date and then going back to the place and then making sure that I never did anything.
And then you have like a lackluster sexual experience.
And then it's like, great, now I'm just not going to talk to them again, or I have to have the conversation, be like, hey, didn't enjoy that, and like I just didn't want to have that conversation anymore. So I waited until there was a time where I was like, oh, I'm actively thinking about fucking you and seeing you and hanging out with you. And it's like, okay, great. Now I know that this is someone that even if I go on a date and we don't vibe, me looking forward to it is a big part. If you're not looking forward to fucking someone, then absolutely fail on it. Do them a favor. Yes.
Yeah.
Start wrapping up.
Am I here with a real quick one?
No.
Okay.
At the end of the episode, we like to hop onto online dating platforms and peruse profiles and see what works, see what doesn't work, in an effort to make your online dating experience a little more enjoyable.
I got a few for you.
Okay.
You want to just rapid fire? How many you got?
I don't have any.
Great. So let's start with this one. it's going to be a rare time where we talk about picture,
Okay.
right? But this person on their profile, which is wilder than it existing, which is already wild, they have a full like leg sleeve tattoo dedicated to various serial killers.
Oh, cool.
So Gacy, Bundy, Dahmer, Manson, all just tattooed
Oh,
in, I would say, horrific fashion. Is that
it's like really like
one kind of looks like Neil Patrick Harris, which is weird. but-
Yeah, it's very much like mediocre tattoo quality,
Yes.
right? Like it's
So what do you think?
it's look. There's a lot of girlies out there that fucking love them some true crime, that love them some serial killers. I think the second you start like making it your whole identity, I'm not even going to talk like I don't want to get into the psychology of things because I am not a professional. However, I just think it's a very uninteresting angle to hinge your personality on. You're right. Like, I think if all of it is just like, and I feel this way about like anything, right? Like,
Yeah, I feel like if you just hinge your profile, your personality on a thing,
yeah.
probably bad.
And you like either you care about serial killers so much that you did this, or you want people to think that you care about serial
Yes.
killers so much that you did this. Both options are lame for me.
Lame at best.
Yeah.
At worst, you're actively into these people and want to emulate.
Yes. And
Or
like,
you think they did good things, which
yeah, some
again,
absolutely heinous people who did heinous
Yes.
things to other human beings.
yes.
And you were like, hey, you know what I want? I want horrible people immortalized
Horribly on me.
on my body. Yeah. So it's like, no, thanks.
It would be it's a flat out -10 for me. Like,
Yeah.
not even a chance. It is a guy, I believe.
Okay.
The leg, just, I don't know if that matters. But no, like, there's not a
Honestly,
world in which I even go, what happened in here?
I
though?
think it does matter.
I think
because
it's actually worse with a guy.
Yes, because a lot of these men did horrible things specifically to women,
Yes.
right?
And most serial killers are men.
And men typically are likely to see themselves in, right? So it's like, I think there's that like really fucked up male fantasy of being able to extrapolate and like be like, who idolize people that shouldn't be idolized.
Yes.
Not saying that women don't or can't, but
I think
Yeah.
it's possible it was like, oops, I'm way too into a true crime girly if it was a girl's leg. But it's also highly possible it's, I will serially kill you.
yes,
In
and
this case.
the fact that you put that on your dating profile also
Yeah,
being like,
it's-
hey women, I'm dangerous to you
It's bad.
specifically. It's
bad.
terrible.
-10.
Yeah.
This is a prompt. Something I'm embarrassed to admit that I love is hentai.
Okay. I mean, again, we try to keep, there's a fun flirtiness that you can get by being spicy on your profile, but this really is no different than being like, a thing I'm embarrassed to admit is like, I love anal porn. Or
Yeah.
I love, like, you've narrow casted a very specific sort of sexual thing, sexual media that you consume, and one typically problematic in terms of like,
Octopus abuse.
yeah, and like a lot of young centric stuff, like a lot of, you know what I mean? Like there is,
I feel like it's a bad call to do something like this on your profile because the odds of you finding someone who's like, hell yeah, I love hentai, incredibly low, I would say.
and it's also a private thing that people don't really have a say in whether you get to enjoy it or not,
Yes.
right? Like if I want to watch anal porn or what, like a specific kind of porn, BDSM porn, whatever.
Sure.
I don't need my partner's consent to
Yes.
consume a private
Mhm.
thing. So you're forcing a private matter
Yeah.
into the public without anyone's like, no,
Yeah.
no
I
one
just-
wants this,
I-
right?
I like, what are you hoping for? Are you just hoping you find someone who goes, I love hentai too, and like that's it? Like, cool, because I think that's the only possible good option from this, because you're either going to get someone who's like, no, right swipe, or whatever swipe, I don't fucking know, or X, or whatever, or you're going to get someone who's like, okay.
So I was helping.
I don't see, that doesn't gain you anything on your profile. It doesn't give you depth. It's not interesting to talk about.
I was helping a friend recently with their dating profile, and they were a younger guy, and his profile was what we would call super bland and boring. And I was trying to like give him some spice, boost him up. He's a very handsome young man. He's very, very funny. He's very cool. He's got a lot going for him. And I think that will carry him pretty far in terms of his physical appeal. But I was like, I said something and I was like, oh, that's a good metric of things. And I was like, don't add anything in your online dating profile that you wouldn't lean over and say to someone at a bar.
Sure.
Right? Because one, you wouldn't turn to someone and just be like, I like soccer. It's like, okay, cool. And you certainly wouldn't be like, hey, it's really
I'm
nice to meet
embarrassed
you.
to admit I like hentai.
Or even just like, I like hentai. Or you wouldn't strike up a conversation about hentai with someone unless there was the context to do so, which is the context that you could have once you start messaging someone.
Yes.
Right? If they start talking about anime and then like, oops, you know what I mean? Like, you can finesse your way into those things the same way that you can finesse your way into talking about sexy stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So like, it's not something you open with. It's not something you
So what's your problem with soccer?
I'm just saying it's like, that's, if the prompt is, soccer's a bad example, but it's just like, if I wouldn't start super vague.
No, that's why I was like, I was wondering, is the vagueness an issue or the issue? Because I like soccer. Cool. You just kind of sound like a toddler.
And it doesn't, it doesn't mean anything,
you know
right?
I mean, if you're like, oh, you're talking and you're like, oh, I actually like play football on the weekends with my friends.
Yes.
That's way better.
I'm in a rec league where I play with my friends, or I coach my brother's little league team, right? That is way more interesting.
That's a conversation. Yes. It's interesting. I like soccer is like, good job, Todd.
Like, you wouldn't say, I like hanging out with my friends to a stranger, right?
And if you do,
you wouldn't, it's a crazy thing to fucking say to a complete stranger.
I like music and Netflix and hanging out with my friends.
But so many people have that in their profile. And it's like, nobody fucking cares because everybody likes that. So it's like, don't say something on your profile that wouldn't be interesting to say to an actual human being, because the people who are reading your profiles, I don't know if you know this, are people that you're trying to impress.
I just got a message. It's another question. It says, no, they're not.
They're not.
It says brackets love you. And that says double brackets, join the Patreon.
Yeah, weird. Do you have another one?
Yes. Do you want me to just do one or two? Because I got two.
One.
Oh, okay, I got to do the good one then. Okay. This one took me for a journey.
Okay.
Haven't been on here in a while. Honestly, just looking for my situationship Niall, who I've been seeing and sleeping with raw damn near every day for months, and tells me that he loves me. Crying, laughing. Heads up for the other girlies. I'ma swipe right on y'all. In search of fellow wooks and feral gremlins too. Let's be friends. I don't know what wooks means.
Yeah.
I really hope it's not a slur.
If that's problematic, we're sorry.
If it's a slur, maybe I'll look it up. You tell me what you think about the profile.
Yeah. It said your name specifically?
It said my name.
And I don't know if I blacked out there for a second, but are they saying their hookup Niall?
Presumably. What I seemed to understand is that they're hooking up they have a situationship with someone named Niall.
Yes.
Presumably not me.
Hopefully.
So they came on this dating app to see if they were on there.
Okay.
Not unless they're looking for their situationship Niall, having been a fan of this podcast for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. And like, they're looking for Niall on the thing, but then they say that they're right swiping everyone else?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. And it says girlies, just a heads up. And I don't know, is it like, heads up, Niall's been fucking me raw and says he loves me, or heads up, girlies, I'm going to swipe right on you.
Right.
It's very confusing.
I don't know. I'm giving it a 0 because I don't understand any of it.
I'm giving it a 0 because it could be about me.
It could be about
And
you.
I haven't been fucking you raw.
Hopefully.
As far as I'm aware.
You're still looking up the definition of...
I think it means like a festival goer who does drugs, it seems to be.
Okay, cool.
So I don't think there's anything. So
Great. That's going to do it for us, friends.
We love you.
We love you very much. As our weird question asker who's been sending us things, if you want to support the show, there are two ways to do it. You can come see us live shows, Black Sheep. We will have our next show ready to tell you soon. We're in the process of getting the next couple dates. 2, join the Patreon, fbuddiespodcast.com, click the Patreon link, or go to patreon.com/fbuddies. The middle tier will get you a bonus episode called Pillow Talk every month, and we would love to have you there. It would be a great way to support the show and help us do cool things. Do you have some bad sex writing for us?
I do. Where did I put it? Also, got another message just says, the episodes are really good on the Patreon. Weird. Get some bad sex writing. Comfortable? Thank you, Josh Eagle and Harvard Seas for the song Paper Stars. He could feel the tight fingers of her cervix move slightly against his knob. With fresh strength, Mark pushed and pushed, forcing the head of his prick against the door to her womb. He could feel her giving way. Could feel her cervix tilting.
This is my favorite thing is people not understand. Like, you don't want to get in the womb.
You don't want to force your way past the cervix. Maybe make it tilt.
I also
Maybe
fingers?
feel its fingers.
Fingers? Hey,
What are you fucking? 'Cause it's not a woman.
it's certainly
Or a human.
it's certainly nothing with a human vagina. That's for sure. I mean, hey, maybe I'm not a doctor. Maybe the cervix does have finger-like appendages. Is that why it's called fingering?
You never got the handshake when you went up?
Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
Hey, you want finger dab, girl? What? You want finger dab? You want dab things? What?
That's the noise that you do have to make when you finger someone.
Oh, you do, yeah.
And if you don't, you're a criminal.
It's true.
My name is Dave Miller.
And I'm Niall Spain. Oh, and there's a question here right now. It says, we've been your fuck buddy. What?
You stole my line. How dare you?
It says brackets love you.